The holidays were spent with family, people traveling from all over the country to be together. But one thing that we've learned here through our Kid Connection series is that many kids don't receive that one gift that they really, really long for, and that's to find a family that they can call their own.
So in today's Kid Connection, TCL reporter Kelly Hansen is chatting with a couple who chose to adopt their son 5 years ago, telling us how adoption created the fabric of this family.
5 years ago, this family took shape when Joe and Tom met their son, John.
I remember him, he was in the house, and I looked in the door, and they had a sectional, and he was sitting up on top of the sectional, and he was just, and it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe. And it was just sort of, oh, yep, this is it.
The two knew they wanted to adopt, and after learning about how many school-aged kids needed a place to call home, they began their search.
He'd been on the move for 10 years and just deserved a place to just grow up.
The couple called themselves boring and wanted to give a child a quiet place.
Our goal was give him a place where he's loved and where he's safe and where it's calm.
You're kind of seeing a new family every 3 years for me, so
wow.
Yeah.
You were ready to be adopted, right?
Both of us had the same reaction when we met him. It was like, that's our kid.
Family for me is people who are there for you no matter what, even if you make a giant mistake or spill a drink on the floor. They're willing to be there for you, care for you, and love you no matter what.
I used to be able to carry him up those stairs. You know, I mean, little.
Yeah, he was little.
The adoption was finalized when John was 10, and even though they've only been a family for 5 years, he's grown up here.
Yeah.
And this was a big change.
Oh my God. Look at him there.
Teenage years are so much more predictable, I think. That's what I'm okay with them about, is just, okay, that's normal, that's normal, that's normal. You know, and you don't have to be thinking about, is there more I should be doing? That's exactly where he's supposed to be at this age. And so it's actually where it might be kind of hard for people. For us, it's reassuring. He came with his own taste in music, you know, his own personality, everything, and so that gets, it changes the family. You know, you go back to the original question, it just changes everything.
John loves art, music, and basketball, and says he feels more like himself now than he ever has.
I don't know what life would be like if John was not in it. I can't imagine it at this point, because he's so much of the fabric of our family. To imagine him not being in it would just be weird.
Without having this family, what do you think you'd be right now?
Probably in a different foster home. So.
Feels good to think that that's not going to happen again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Kelly is here. Let's talk a little bit about the concept of older child adoption,
Right.
what that looks like.
Yeah, when you think of older adoption, you might think of like an 18-year-old, but 10 years old is considered older adoption.
Wow.
And it was interesting to hear the couple say that it's, you know, when you adopt a 10-year-old, they have their own personality. They can have a conversation with you. You can get
Right.
to know them on a different level than you could maybe an infant or a toddler.
Right.
But then there's still time to mold them and to guide them into the adult that they can be, that
Yeah.
they're meant to be. So it's really an interesting concept when you think of it that way.
So if you have thought, okay, maybe this is something that we want to do, maybe adopting is in our future, where's the first step? What's the first thing to do to kind of wrap your head around
So
it?
the menadopt.org, the website is a great resource. Head there. They've got a ton of information and it's laid out really clearly. But there are also something called adoption education classes, pre-adoption education classes. So as you can see, there's so many that are coming up starting in February across Minnesota. And what you're going to learn there, you're going to learn more about the waiting children. You're going to maybe see some pictures, learn more about each individual one. You're going to learn about the adoption process itself. You're going to hear from adoptive families.
Oh, that's
You're
helpful.
also going to hear maybe from some teens out there that have been adopted or that are looking for an adoptive family. So you really get to know the process. Each class is a 2-day class. but it's really informative and is truly the first step into seeing if this is something that you want to do.
Well, not to mention there, the MinAdopt staff is there. And so if after a session completes, then you can sort of sidle over to them and ask any other questions that you have.
Right.
And instead of, I mean, the website is great, but when you can get that, because I'm sure they're all, one question leads to another question.
Right. And no question is off limits. I mean, you
Right.
really need to know what you're getting into and learn more about it. But minadopt.org, if you head there as well, you can see the number of children that are available. You can see their pictures. They're not all listed, but there are several, and we've got our stories, obviously, at TwinCitiesLive.com.
Wow, Kelly, thank you so much.
Kelly.
Thanks for sharing that. What a great family story. So all those resources that Kelly mentioned can be found at TwinCitiesLive.com.